Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Donna Friesen from Global News, and I have to commend her for doing what I think are two fantastic year-end interviews. I did a video yesterday where I contrasted the answers Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney gave to very similar questions that she asked them. Let's continue today, and I want to zero in on a question that she asked about how should Canada deal with the United States. Let's get right into it and hear the clip of her talking with Mark Carney.
President Trump faces midterm elections next fall. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to rule on whether his tariff scheme is legal or not. Is one strategy simply to wait him out, to let events potentially take over?
Well, certainly a strategy is not to rush into a bad deal, and that's what we've been very disciplined about. And every week that goes by, the more that we're developing our economic strategy at home, the more we're developing those relationships abroad, the stronger we get. So you gave the example, you prompted me on the defense spending, that $80 billion. That's an enormous amount of money. That's necessary to protect our Arctic. It's necessary to make sure the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have the right equipment. But a lot of that, instead of 70 cents on every dollar going south of the border to the United States, defense contractors, a lot of that is now going to be spent here, and it's going to help develop other industries. So all of that puts us in a better position. So yes, is it a better position to be disciplined, have the tough negotiations, which we're having, have those discussions, and then if a good deal is there, yes, we will sign it. But if it's not there, we're not going to sign a bad deal.
So he gives in his answer pretty much the things he's been talking about for many months now. Yes, we will continue to negotiate and have talks with the United States, but we will not just cave into them. We will not just sign any deal for the sake of signing a deal. And in particular, we will not legitimize any tariffs that they've imposed. Being in the situation where one bombastic buffoon down south implements tariffs on our economy and uses the excuse that Canada is a national security threat to the United States to impose tariffs, that's being challenged in the Supreme Court right now. It would be foolish for Canada to rush into any type of agreement that legitimizes those in any way. Say, negotiate that tariff rate down from 30% to 18% would just legitimize and lock us into, on paper, a deal like that. Mark Carney has no intention of signing a bad deal and is, as he has been, focusing on what we can do at home ourselves to improve our own situation ourselves. So pretty standard answer, what you'd expect from him. Now let's hear Pierre Poilievre.
If you were Prime Minister, do you think you would be able to have reached a deal with him on tariffs? And how would you feel sitting across the table from him, trying to renegotiate NAFTA? Imagine yourself in that room.
Well, I would feel a great responsibility to defend Canadian workers and consumers. And I would live out that responsibility by getting a fair deal for the Canadian people, which removes, the aim of which is to remove the unjustified American tariffs so that we can sell our goods into the U.S. market, in exchange for which what we offer is a good, reliable Canadian partner for minerals, for energy, for international security.
What would you do differently?
So predictably, just to start off, he says, well, I'll defend Canada and I'll get a deal. I'll go back to the way it was. I'll have them remove their unjust tariffs, and we will in return give them a reliable trading partner, which is exactly the situation as it was when the bombastic buffoon down south said, well, we don't need anything that you have. We don't need to buy your cars. We don't need to buy anything that you have, and we'll impose tariffs on you. And in fact, we'll impose tariffs on everyone on Earth. So just saying that you want it to go back to the way it was is not really a strategy. And Donna Friesen is a shrewd reporter, and she tries to get him back on track here.
I'm asking you what you would do differently. You know, the Ontario Premier calls President Trump a tyrant. Is that language you would use?
I would focus on the business relationship. We got to get a deal. At the end of the day, we're right next door to the biggest economic force in the history of the world. My focus is on getting a deal and the best possible arrangement for the Canadian people, defend our sovereignty,
I think
reopen
that's
markets.
Prime Minister Carney's objective, too, to get a deal.
I'm sure it is, but
so
he
it's
hasn't
about
achieved
approach.
it.
It's about approach, I think, at this point.
She tries to get him back on track. She says, I'm asking you what you would do differently. And by the way, Doug Ford, another conservative, has called the president a tyrant, leading in, okay, what do you have to say for it? And he immediately, his answer is very telling if you try and analyze it. He refuses to say anything bad about the president of the United States. He says, well, I prefer to stick to the business and not go as far as say he's a tyrant. And then he just blurts out that we need a deal. We have to get a deal. We'll get the best deal we can. Get a deal at any cost is basically his position. He has really no strategy and no idea how to answer this question. And the reason he has no idea how to answer this question is because 50% of conservative voters like and they think he's doing a good job, and he has to be very guarded and careful not to insult him or not to take a position that's that much in opposition to the president of the United States. He just simply cannot do it. And so he can't really speak to this issue other than say, well, I'll get a deal. I'll get the best deal we can. We need, and then kind of suck up to them a little bit, say they're the greatest economic power the world has ever seen. We must get a deal. That's not the type of person that I want negotiating on my behalf for my country, to just suck up to the people that you're negotiating with. You're the greatest power the world has ever seen. Please, can we have a good deal? That is just not. That's not a good strategy. And the reason he's doing it is because he has a leadership review coming up at the end of January, and he cannot say anything negative about the president of the United States. He just simply can't, because it will alienate his base. He just resorts to saying what really anyone can say. I'll just get a really good deal. We need to get a deal right away. Similar comments to what the bombastic buffoon down south said during the U.S. election. Well, I'll get a deal on day one. I'll get a deal between Russia and Ukraine. I'll end the war, and I will get a deal on day one. It's no problem. Well, a year's gone by, and Russia is still launching rockets and dropping bombs on Ukraine, and the position has changed now, right? Now it's I didn't really say I would get a deal. I was just being sarcastic. Anyone that believed that I actually meant the first day is wrong, and the only reason I can't get a deal is because of what Joe Biden did in the past, and blah, 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 blah. And his supporters will just forget that he said that because he's the greatest cult figure for them to follow. And he's basically using the same MAGA rhetoric to just any issue, to just claim that he'll solve the issue without actually going into any detail. But now let's go back to Prime Minister Mark Carney, because the interviewer here, Donna Friesen, presses him on his answer and asks him to elaborate more.
It feels like the ground is shifting globally. I mean, you have described it as a hinge moment, a rupture of multilateral rules-based order. Where does Canada fit into that as a middle power? What kind of influence can we really wield?
Yeah, it's very, first, I think it's very important that we recognize exactly what you just said, how much things have changed, and it's a very fluid situation internationally. That's one of the reasons why we're being so aggressive in talking to different partners, developing different defense, security, and economic partnerships. What I would say to Canadians, the good news is virtually everybody wants to do more with Canada. So that's true in Asia, whether it's the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, the ASEAN countries, which are almost a quarter of the world's GDP. It's Indonesia, it's the European Union, it's the UK, it's the countries of the Gulf. United Arab Emirates is going to invest $70 billion in Canada. They've made a commitment to that. They made the commitment. We didn't even ask, that comes. So people want to do more with Canada because we have what the world wants. We have the values to which most of the world aspires. We're a reliable partner, and we're an increasingly confident nation that has ambition. So people want to deal with us. Now, that is good for our economy. It's good for jobs. It's good for the future. It's good for our independence from the United States. But it also brings an opportunity to help shape a world that is more dangerous, more divided. And we see an example. I'll give you one example of that. We are a member of something called the Coalition of the Willing to support Ukraine. So the United States is not a member of the Coalition of the Willing supporting Ukraine. We are major European countries. Australia is in, United Kingdom as well. So we're helping to create the possibility of a lasting peace there through security guarantees and other support. And that type of coalitions, different countries coming together on different issues, I think we're going to see more of that. Canada, with the right values and with influence because of we have what the world wants, I think we can play an important role there.
So he elaborates on this topic by talking about why it's so important for Canada to diversify and make trade relationships and increase our supply chains with everyone on Earth. How everyone in the world wants what Canada has. And I've been saying this on my channel as well, that we can't just be begging the United States to take us back. Oh, it was such a bad breakup, but I want you back. We still love you. I hate that. We have to look after ourselves. The whole world wants what we have. And he articulated that much better than I can right here. And he also makes the point that other than just trade, we are expanding our influence in the world by connecting with other countries. Because the United States is being led by an asshole. And we are being viewed now as much more stable, much more responsible, a much more desirable partner. And he's viewing it as this is a huge opportunity for Canada to get better. And I like that. Whereas Pierre Poilievre, when he's asked the question, just simply doesn't have an answer, doesn't have a vision. He just has to be careful not to insult the bombastic buffoon that half of his supporters like, and just say, well, yeah, I'll get a deal, right? On day one. He didn't say on day one, but he might as well. He's using the same rhetoric as the bombastic buffoon. Now let's move on to the next question that Donna asks Pierre Poilievre, and it's expected. Okay, he should be expecting this question. Let's watch.
If you lose another MP to the Liberals, and I don't know if you know whether you will or not, because I'm not sure. There's no clarity on that. It may or may not happen. You would then be facing a Liberal majority government, and you would be opposition leader for potentially another 3 years. How would that sit with you?
Well, I think it would sit very badly with the Canadian people who voted against a costly Liberal majority.
I'm asking you, would you hang on as leader?
And she's so respectful in how she asks it, right? She says, well, you don't know and we don't know if another MP will cross, but if another MP crosses the floor and the Liberals get a majority, that will make you the opposition leader for at least possibly 3 years in the future. Would that sit well with you? And of course, he cannot answer that question because he's playing from the MAGA bombastic buffoon US playbook. You cannot admit defeat. You cannot admit that you lost. You cannot internalize any criticism or answer any question that involves criticism of you. And he's, with a straight face, when she asks him, how will that sit with you? He says, well, I think that will sit really, really bad with the people that voted for the common sense conservative blah, blah, blah. And she this is like the third or fourth time she tried to pose that question to let him at least reflect internally, but he can't do it. And she shut him down. It's just, the man just can't, right? He just simply cannot deviate from that playbook. He's a maple MAGA. He's a bombastic buffoon clone. He's not as orange, but he fits the mold perfectly. So once again, I have to commend Donna Friesen for just a fantastic series of interviews. I like the way she comports herself. She asks serious questions in a very respectful way. She lets the person she's interviewing answer when it's obvious that that person will not answer the question. She throws it back at them, right? Like as she did with Pierre Poilievre a couple of times, but very respectfully, right? Not as respectful as me. I'm not an interviewer. I don't have to be as respectful. I can give you my point of view. And I thought I'd share these answers, just a couple of questions, because again, it speaks to the integrity of the people that were being interviewed. And the contrast that this video shows you is that one person, Mark Carney, is thoughtfully considering everything and has a vision for how to solve the problems when he's asked questions about problems, he's trying to present an answer of, well, how will he go about solving those problems? And you may or may not agree, right? But he's thinking a visionary way of how he would handle it. Whereas the other guy, when he's posed questions about himself, he just refuses to answer and refuses to admit that he even lost the election. But when he's asked questions of how would you solve this problem, he doesn't really answer. He uses the issue of problems, right? He talks a lot about the problem, like everything's broken and everything's a problem, as if, well, that's all I need to do is talk about the problems and then just blame them on Mark Carney or whoever is leading the Liberals, and just state those without a vision of, well, how will I solve them? Other than just saying, well, I'll solve them. And that's the difference. So leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. I've got one more of these to do. Let me know if you'd like to hear it, where there's another series of questions that I think are very informative. If you like this format, let me know in the comment section. I think I'm trying to interject my point of view after the questions to give you a flavor for how I'm hearing their answers. Let me know if you like that. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. If you want to support my work on a monthly basis, please hit the join button and become a channel member. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone. And I'll catch you all on the next one.